Hi, friends. If you didn't know, we have a group and it's called the Best Friend Community. It is created for women who are like-minded, who are seeking after Jesus and want to have that kingdom mindset. And in this group, we discuss what the world tells us to do versus what God and the Holy Spirit and the Bible tell us. We would love to have you. This group is free of charge, and we would love for you just to be a part of our growing community where we connect with each other and move forward in the way that God designed things to be. Today, we're going to talk about three things: respect, jealousy, and pride. Wow. So I was having a conversation with my mom this past weekend, and she said, Ashley, do you know what the first original sin was? And we talked about it, and she told me that my granddaddy, who was my great-granddaddy, her granddad, who was a preacher, told her that the original sin was jealousy. And I get it, right? Because Satan was jealous of God. And from that, all the things happened. But what we talked about was that pride comes from what's inside of us, knowing that we have to be enough, knowing that we're good enough, knowing all of those things. And we would never have jealousy if it wasn't first for pride. I want to tell you about the book of Esther, kind of walk you through how Esther dealt with this, right? In the beginning, there was this, and I'm going to murder these names, okay? So in the beginning of the book of Esther, there was this guy, and his name was Exorus, and he was married to this woman who was a beautiful woman, right? She was a queen because she was married to him, and her name was Vashti. Anyways, we're gonna call them King X and Queen V, and you can just keep up with the story that way. He called her to come into his quarters where he was, and she was like, nope, not about it. And then he's like, yo, and he goes and he talks to his, like, the guys that are in charge, like his accountability crew, right? Like the ones that are making sure things are carried out the right way and all of that. And he says to them, according to the law, according to the law, what must be done to her? She's not obeyed the command of me that the eunuchs have taken her. These eunuchs were the one that he didn't even go to her, right? He didn't even go and say, hey, you want to come spend some time with me? No, he sent these other men and told her to come with him, and she's like, no. And now he's going and he's asking this advisory council. You know, the law says that she has to go with them, and she didn't. Now what happens to her? Man, can you imagine being married in this time, in this place, in this season, and how she must have felt, right? Like, as women, we want to be respected. We want a man to come to us and say, hey, come spend time with me. I love you. Like, be in my presence, be with me. And he didn't. So essentially what they suggested to him to do to her was like throw her out. Like, dude, she's not about this life anymore. We don't want her here. But she was in charge of the women, right? The guy would have all these parties. King X would have all these parties, and she would have all of them for all the women. And if she did this, then all the women would start thinking, we don't have to respect our husbands. And this is how they viewed respect back then. Queen V makes her exit, and then King X is like, well, I need a wife to come in. Here comes Esther. Now, let me tell you about Esther. Esther, homegirl, she's a Jew, and she is being raised, or has been raised, by her uncle, which his name is Mordecai, right? Something happened to her mom and dad. They are no longer in the picture, and she's raised Mordecai. Lovely figure and was beautiful. Ding, ding, ding. Hello, King X. We are here. She had not revealed her nationality, okay? Because she couldn't be with King X, or he wouldn't want to be with her because of where she was from. So Uncle Mordecai said, hey, girlfriend, we can't talk about this. Like, you got to stay hush hush on this. And so she did, right? She was respectful to him and what he told her, and that, like, obeying your elders kind of thing, whatever, she did it. So did you know, man, I'm trying to get on this king list because she got 12 months of beauty treatment before she ever even got to meet him. Like, all these women that they brought in there, like, oh, these could be options for him, right? 6 months would go in oil and myrrh, and 6 months would be perfume and cosmetics. When it came time for Esther, the young woman Mordecai had adopted, the daughter of his uncle, to go to the king, she asked for nothing other than what Haggai, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the harem, suggested. So she was going to go in and give something to King X, right? It's just like, I don't know what to take. Like, Hey, you're his eunuch. You know him best. You tell me what to take. So she took what he told her to take. And it says, and Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. Homegirl was good. She was beautiful. She was respectful to Mordecai. This is the kind of girl that's pretty inside and out. And it says on here that she continued to follow Mordecai's instructions as he had done with her as he was bringing her up, right? So there's these juicy details in the back. We're not telling anybody. She's winning favor. We're good. We're going in. Haman's plot to destroy the Jews. Okay, so there was this guy named Haman, and he comes in and he has won favor with King X, and King X is going to give him, like, he's the next man in charge, right? But Mordecai would not kneel to him because Mordecai is a Jew and Haman doesn't like Jews. Mordecai's like, not doing it, not giving you this, we're not going there. 3 verse 8. Then Haman said to King X, there is a certain people dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom who keep themselves separate. Their customs are different from all other people, and they will not obey the king's laws. It's not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. So Haman, just because he doesn't like the Jews, is in here like putting some up the King X's sleeve, right? And he got King X to agree to this. So it says, so the king took off his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Hanan and the enemies of the Jews. Keep the money, the king said to Hanan, and do with the people as you please. Goodness gracious. So that goes to show right here, don't let other people be making your decisions, right? Like, let's just not do that. Let's go in, let's know all the facts, because if King X would have paid attention to all the facts, he would have known, hey, these other people that Hanan's talking about, that is your wife's uncle. King and Hanan sat down and drank, but the city of Susa was bewildered because what happened? All of these Jews were going to get wiped out. Mordecai persuades Esther to help because Esther's a Jew. Hold on. So all the Jews are going to get taken out that don't bow down to this king. That's not good because Esther's a Jew. Mordecai goes in there and he's like, hey, niece, I'm going to need you to save all the Jews. I'm going to need you to go talk to the king. And she says, yeah, that sounds cool, but I can't talk to the king because the only way to talk to the king is if he calls you in. And if you go and he doesn't like that you're there and he doesn't welcome you in, then he kills you. And that's the law. Like, he can't even get around it. That's the law. And then Mordecai says to her, okay, that's cute and all. You can wait if you want to. You don't have to do it. But chapter 4, verse 13, he sent back his answer. Do not think that because you are the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. So now it got personal for Esther, right? It got personal because she's like, oh crap, like, I am a Jew. I might be in this house with this man, but I'm still a Jew. So that's all backstory. Okay, that's all backstory. So this right here is when we start talking about that pride, that jealousy. Watch this. So Esther said, and how do you deal with people that are prideful? How do you deal with people that are jealous? Because that's what's happening. Haman right here, Haman is so prideful. He is so jealous that he cannot stand it. But if Esther goes to him the way that Queen Bee went to him or the way that Mordecai went to him, she's not going to win favor, right? So how do we deal with people who are full of pride and full of jealousy? Well, I love this cool book right here because it tells us exactly how to do it in a way that makes our life feel simple and supported. And that's the goal. This is what she told Mordecai. She said, go gather all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days or nights, and I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. Y'all, Number one, how often do we think, I'm dealing with a hard person, let me go fast? We don't think that, right? And like, what is fasting? Well, there's all kinds of examples in the Bible of what fasting is. Jesus separated himself for 40 days and 40 nights and fasted, right? There's all kinds, Daniel fasted. There's all kinds of examples of fasting in here. But the purpose of this is to say, when you are dealing with those difficult people, you got to draw close to God. And that's what fasting is. Fasting is that sacrifice of the things that you want so that you get closer to God. It is saying, you know what, not my will be done, but yours, God. Not me eating this great food, but me getting closer to you, me sacrificing these things so that I can feel your presence closer and hear you more and know you better. Wow. I wrote on here, I said, Esther was scared. Her uncle told her that she had bigger things to be scared of. So sometimes we can be worried about these people or these situations, but there's really bigger things at stake. So when it's bigger than you, fast and have those around you fast. So it's not just you fasting. It wasn't just Esther fasting. She said, you know what, I'm going to do this for you, but I need you to fast. I need your people to fast. I'm going to fast. I'm going to have my people to fast. Like bringing other people in like agreement for what you're going after. This one, y'all, it says Esther's request to the king. So she goes in and she says, if it pleases the king, let the king together with Haman come today for a banquet I have prepared for them. So she gets to go in, right? He allows her in and he says, whatever you want, baby. I'll give you up to half of this kingdom, whatever you want. And she's like, you know what? All I want is to feed you, is to serve you, is to be around you. Hold on. I want to feed you at this banquet that I've already prepared. You mean to tell me she was fasting? So she wasn't eating, but she was preparing a meal for him. So when we're dealing with people who are hard, who are fueled by jealousy, anger, pride, we want to get closer to God. We want to fast. We want to pull in our support system, those around us. And then we want to be kind to those people. We want to even offer them the things that we don't even have ourselves. Okay, so we have Esther and she's invited the king to this first banquet. And she says, come and eat with me. And he's there and he's like, okay, I'm here, baby. Now, what do you want? What do you want? And he says it. He said, I'll give you up to half of this kingdom, of this house, of all of these things. What do you want? And she says, again, for the second time, will you come to a banquet with me tomorrow? You and Haman, just you two, come to a banquet with me again tomorrow. Haman's rage against Mordecai. Haman went out that day happy and in high spirits, but when he saw Mordecai at the king's gate and observed that neither the rose showed fear in his presence, he was filled with rage against Mordecai. However, he restrained himself and went home. Homeboy is getting invited to the top tier dinners with the king and queen, the only one there. And he is still so angry. This other person will not bow to him, that is not fearful of him. But he goes home and he says the next day, right? Or that evening when he gets home, he says to his wife and his friends, and he was boasting. Pride, right? Boasting to them about his vast wealth and his many sons and all the ways the king had honored him and how he had elevated him above all the other nobles and officials. And that's not all, Haman added. Verse 11, chapter 5, I am the only person Queen Esther invited to accompany the king to the banquet she gave. It says, and she has invited me along with the king tomorrow. But all this, y'all, listen, even after all that, but all of this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that the Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate. He could not be happy, right? There's some people in your life that just, you can't make them happy. You can't. It says, his wife and his friends said to him, have a pole set up, reaching to the height of 50 cubits, and ask the king in the morning to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then go with the king to the banquet and enjoy yourself. This suggestion delighted Haman, and he had the pole set up. It says that night the king could not sleep, so he ordered the book of Chronicles for the record of his region. So in this book, what happened is, and coincidences, right? Coincidences. Out of all nights, King X couldn't sleep, and so he pulled in this record book of all the things. And in this record book, he saw that Mordecai had done all this cool stuff for him. And he's like, hold on, he was never repaid for that. How can I repay him? What honor and recognition has Mordecai received for all of this? The king asked. Nothing has been done for him, his attendants answered. Wow. When Haman entered, the king asked him, what should be done for this man the king delights to honor? So the king wanted to honor Mordecai. But remember, Haman doesn't like Mordecai. And he says to Haman, what should I do? And Haman thought to himself, who is there that the king would rather honor than me? Jealousy. Oh, jealousy. It says, so he answered the king, for the man the king delights to honor, have them bring a royal robe king has worn and a horse that the king has ridden, and with one royal crest placed on his head. Then let the robe and the horse be entrusted to one of the king's most noble princes. Let the robe and the man and the king delight in honor, and lead him on the horse through the city streets, proclaiming him before, this is what what is done for the man the king delights to honor. And then King X was like, go once, go do it right now. Verse 12, afterwards Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman rushed home with his head covered in grief and told his wife and all his friends everything that had happened to him. His advisors and his wife said to him, oh, okay, what kind of people you got around you? Are you feeling jealous? Are you feeling prideful? Check your group, check your encouragers, check who's in your support team. And if you're working against somebody that is prideful and angry and can't be happy for anybody, who are their people around them, right? Who is supporting this behavior? It says, so the king and Haman went to the Queen Esther's banquet, and as they were drinking wine on the second day, the king asked Queen Esther, what is your petition? Woman, what do you want? It will be given to you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom it will be granted. The queen answered, if I have found favor with you, majesty, and it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition. And spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, because no such distress would justify disturbing the king. King X said to Queen Esther, who is he? Where is he, the man who has dared to do such a thing? Esther said, an advisory of the enemy, this vile Haman. He's sitting at the table with him. So Esther was smart. She drew close to God. She surrounded herself with other people that were doing the same. She was kind to other people when she didn't have to be. And she was patient. She was patient. And this is what her patience gave her. Then Haman was terrified before the king and queen. The king got up in a rage and left his wine and went out to the palace garden. But Haman, realizing the king had already decided his fate, stayed behind to beg the Queen Esther for his life. Just as the king returned to the palace garden from the banquet hall, Haman was fallen on the couch where Esther was reclining. The king exclaimed, will he even molest the queen while she is with me in the house? Also, he like Haman has no chance at this point, right? It says, as soon as the word left the king's mouth that covered Haman's face, one of the eunuchs attending the king said, a pole reaching to the height of 50 cubits stands near Haman's house. He has set it up for Mordecai, who the king said, impale him on it. Y'all, your ugliness will come back. What does it say? What you reap, you will sow. Pride, jealousy, anger, ugliness. It serves us no point, right? Haman had all of these things. And if he could have been thankful, so what does it look like when we see that pride and jealousy coming up in us? If he could have just been thankful, if he could have surrounded himself with people that would encourage good, how would his life be different? The king said, impale him. So they impaled Haman on the pole he had set up for Mordecai. The king's fury subsided. She sought God and did it his way. She was given what her enemies had. Those around her will be blessed. She didn't just start acting with respect the last night in the banquet. She had to have this relationship with this man where she could walk into his court and he would allow her in and not kill her like the law stated that could be done. She had built up respect with him. She was a woman of integrity. She was honoring to those around her. There's more. That ends with about chapter 8 right there. But when we are dealing with jealousy and anger and pride, it is so easy to just get defensive. It is so easy to want to protect ourselves and shut other people out. It is so easy to say, I'm not dealing with them. Queen V said that. She said, I'm not dealing with them. I don't even want to be around them. I don't want to be in their presence. None of it. And we see where it got her. Sometimes we have to deal with these kind of people. But how? The world would tell us, put your boundaries up. Don't go near them. Don't be around it. And yes, there is time and place for that. But when we look at God's word and what it says about it, it says, when we deal with those people, number one, get close to God. Draw into him. Fast. Have other people around you support you in it. Be kind and be patient, and good will come. We're going to talk more about this. We're going to talk more about how it applies in our everyday life and not just these examples that we're reading here on Wednesday. And I hope to see you there at 12 Eastern. We'll see you soon, friends. What you just heard was a session that is within that group. Every Wednesday, we meet to discuss things like this and other topics that we focus in and deal with in life. We would love to have you. So if you know of someone who needs some support, who needs some guidance, which really that's all of us, right? We would love for you to share how to register, which will be in the links below.